All right, everyone, thank you for coming to the Board of Selectmen meeting. I have 7 o'clock. I will call the meeting to order and ask that we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next item on the agenda is public comments. Do we have any comments? They've got to be limited to the budget. Okay, hearing none. I know we have two people on the line. They're just identified as callers. We have somebody from the Veterans Museum.
Yeah, Ron, I'm here.
Oh, hey, Ron.
Hi, Ron.
How you doing, sir?
Quite well, thank you. And you?
Hey, can't complain.
Yeah, no one listens.
That's right.
All right, Ron, I think this will be fairly quick for you. We had a couple of questions on your budget, predominantly because of the size of the increase of it.
Right. We usually do that about every 5 years. We found out that we used to buy flags on a yearly basis.
Okay.
And that was just a lot of confusion, and it was way more expensive. We usually get a very good deal by buying all the flags in one purchase. So, we buy, because we're doing about 500 flags a year on the graveyards between, this side of the river and the other side of the river. So, and among the larger flags too. So, but we found that over the years, we've been doing this for quite some time now since I took over, which has been almost like 30 years. Like I said, we used to do it on a yearly basis. We found out that was back at that time was almost $1 a flag, and you get them for way less than that now. So that's why we do that. And the only other increase we've had for the essay contest.
Right.
You see that went from $50 to $100, but that's been the same ever since it started. And like I say, I've been doing it for 30 years now, and that has never increased, and we just decided to increase it this year. So.
Okay, so you're just increasing on that one. I know we're talking minor money, but I just want to make sure I have it straight. The first place is being increased. What about second or third?
Yeah, second and third. So it used to be, let me see if I get this right, 25, 15, and 10. Now it goes 50, 30, and 20.
Okay.
And that was the only two increases. And obviously, flags, that's about every 5 years. We may get more than that. Depending upon the weather and that kind of stuff, sometimes we've got it up to 6 years and close to 7 years. So.
Okay.
But that's why we do it like that. It's just way, buying in bulk is actually a lot better. So.
All right, that makes sense. Honestly, the flags were my particular question, but could you do it on an annual basis, because that smooths out the budget? But you've certainly, since you've done it this way, and there's good reason for it. Personally, I'm okay with it. You also. Well, go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, like we say, it was so much less expensive when we figured out that because I called up the company and they actually have like a menu there you go through. If you buy X amount, it's this much flag, this much a flag, and the higher you go to a certain point, then it just, that's where they stop. But we go right to the max where we get the best possible price. So.
Okay, who do you get them from?
God, it's a place out in, I think it's Idaho or something like that.
Isn't Carrot?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I'd have to look that up. Like I say, we only do it every 5 years or so. And they usually throw in a little extra. They have in the past. I don't know about now under the current, climate, but in the past they just said, you know what, that's so close, we're going to send you X amount more or something like that. So.
Okay. And you haven't had any problems with the flags getting damaged in storage by mice or water or anything else?
No, they're up in the museum, and they're in perfect shape up there. Like I
Okay.
say, and actually the flags that we've been buying, we make sure they're made in America, and we like to buy the heavier duty flags. And what we've been doing is recycling the ones that are in pretty decent shape after a year on a grave, and we hand them out on Memorial Day to all the spectators in the crowd. So
That's nice. Okay.
yeah, so we get a lot of use out of them.
Hey, Ron, this is Sean. I got just a couple of questions for you. Are you guys all set for your other programs?
With what other programs?
Like the Memorial Day, you all set for Memorial Day and all that, other than the flags, like, your expenses for that?
Yes. Oh, yeah. No,
Okay.
we're
All right.
fine with that. That's under our normal budget stuff. That's usually. Let me see. What was it last year? It was only like $1,700 for the
Yeah.
annual. Usually the budget's right around 1,700, something like
All right. I
that.
just want to make sure you're all set with that.
Yeah, that's for refreshments and everything else.
Yeah.
And actually, a lot of times we'll turn back money at the end of the year, if we don't use it. So,
Yeah.
no, we're really good with that. So,
yeah. My second question, more of a personal question. When is a good time when someone is down at the museum? I've had kicking around in my truck now my gas mask that I wore and used in Desert Storm. I want to donate it to you guys, but I never know when anybody's going to be in there.
you can call any one of us anytime. The names are right on the door, but usually we're down there between 6:30 and 8 o'clock every morning having coffee.
I'll swing by on my way to work one time. I think
Yeah,
been in my truck for 6 months now. I keep forgetting to drop it off.
No, usually you'll see like 8 or 10 cars parked up there, and we solve all the world's problems while we're sitting up there. So,
all right,
yeah.
thanks. Yeah, it's an old M17A1. I'll be more than happy to give it to you.
All right, that's great. Because we just got an Eisenhower jacket this morning with all the medals and the ribbons on it and everything, and that was nice. So
nice.
Yeah, that's neat.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a nice jacket. So.
All right, Kate, do you have anything for Ron?
No, I'm all set. You guys covered everything.
Okay. All right. Good enough. Thanks,
All right,
Ron.
so he's done here, so I can check out.
Yep, you can check out.
All right, thank you. Have a very good evening, guys.
All right.
You too.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Thank you.
All right, Doug, I see you. You're here. You're up next. And if you're trying to talk, you're still muted. Doug? Okay, Doug, I see you on the screen, but you're still muted and I can't unmute you.
Nope. Maybe he'll try to come back in. Looks like he left.
Okay, I see him coming back in.
There we go. All right, how's that?
Hey, Doug.
Hello. Rhonda's here also. Hi.
Hey, Rhonda.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Let's see.
All All right, Doug, you're looking for a $40,000 increase. You care to take us through that?
Sure. So let me pull this up here. So we're looking, the reason we're looking for that, I'm just going to go through some of the big changes that occurred. So as we go through, I guess let me start on the income page. So our total income for 2021 was $435,299.92. And estimated for 2021, we based our estimate on maybe just on level call volume. Really it was difficult to predict increased call volume, although one would hope that it, well, I shouldn't say we hope that it comes up, but we might be able to predict that it goes up a little bit because we're still behind on the trend from before COVID. So where our service payments were $283,096 in 21, we're estimating 290,000, mainly because our base rate has gone up a little bit, but not because we're predicting a greater transport volume right now. Something that can impact the income would be if we start charging for the calls that we don't transport on. But a significant percentage of those calls would impact elderly residents, fall victims and such, who need a lift assist at home. That would be the where that would the folks that would impact a great deal. The bill for that is smaller than the transport bill, but thus far we've opted not to do that billing. I haven't broken out the number exactly how many of the non-transports involve falls and lift assists at home. So we're going to work on getting that number, and then we can probably we would be able to at that point make a more informed decision about what money could be billed and could possibly be collected. Right now, as we're aware, there are 3 insurances that are paying for those non-transports. That's Medicare, which is 67% of our call volume, Medicare and Medicaid, Blue Cross, and I believe Aetna. Those are a much smaller percentage of our volumes. So anyway, when we figured up our income for the year, just look at this page right here. We 396,100, and that included 80,000.
Did anyone else lose them, or is it just me?
Yeah, no, it's not just you, Doug, you're lost. Doug? Let's wait a couple of minutes. I just texted Doug. Hopefully he gets that.
All right.
While we're waiting, on my notes when we did the initial review, I didn't indicate anything about HK Rec. But do we want to bring them in for discussion on their budget? Because there had been some talk about that earlier, if I remember correctly.
I don't have the sheets with me. How?
They were
Was it
looking
much-
for, it was a 6 point something increase percent, almost 6.75% increase.
I'd have to look to see what their justification was for it. You know.
I think they said it was, they're basing it on the ADM.
ADM.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. I mean, if it's unavoidable increase, there's not much we can do about it. You know, if they're not looking for, um, an unusual increase, if it just has to do with our shares is greater, and it's just going up proportionally, normally it would be like a zero if everything had stayed the same. Then I don't see a need to really hammer them.
Yeah, but I think we may want to look more detailed at their financials.
Okay.
Yeah, I am a little interested in their operations because they lost a full-time position as of last summer. And then I haven't heard anything either about their office space and what the status of the white building is and if they have to relocate.
All right.
All right.
Yeah,
Hello?
have them in.
Okay. We'll see if we can arrange that for Monday. Hi, Doug. Glad you're back.
Hi,
Welcome back.
sorry about that. I think it's a weak signal here because usually this isn't a problem up here, but that's twice that I lost the meeting. Are you ready for me to continue?
Yeah. Please do. We lost you shortly after you were talking about your no transport and call volume, etc.
Oh, okay. So what I was saying about the no transports, they are a significant percentage of our call volume. We've opted so far not to transport. Only 3 insurers pay that. That would be Medicare, Medicaid services, Blue Cross, and Aetna. Medicare, Medicaid is 67% of our call volume. In other words, 67% of our patients are covered by Medicare or Medicaid. And Medicare and Medicaid also happen to pay the lowest amount per bill of all our insurers. And also that group of patients would be disproportionately affected by the by us billing for non-transports because they would typically make up the greater proportion of, say, lift assist calls that we go to. So that's part of why we've opted not to bill for those yet, because of the people who it would impact. All right, so we looked at our income, and we don't anticipate a huge increase in income for the year yet. We wanted to be conservative on that side. So then we go to the expenses. So on the expense side, some of the bigger items, So Emergency Resource Management, that's the staffing agency we use. So as I was saying, but I was already cut off at this point, didn't realize it. Our volunteers have, over the last couple of years, have really done a good job in that we've picked up a few more volunteers each year, and the hours covered by volunteers have increased. So we've been able to use ERM for fewer hours. We also stopped staffing for now ERM on the overnight hours, and instead depending on volunteers to pick up the shifts or do all call tones for those calls, because that's the hour of those hours, midnight to 0-100, are the hours a day when we have the lowest volume of calls. It has resulted in a saving. Those two items have resulted in a savings in use in how much we've spent for ERM, down from 360,000 for the year 2 years ago, 280,000 a year ago, and then just this past fiscal year we were down to 250,000. So we've steadily brought that number down, despite increase in the cost for ERM to us in the hourly rate that we pay them. So that's the good news there. But our contract is up in June. We anticipate that they're going to request an increase. In fact, we don't see how they won't request an increase, because right now staffing is a big problem in healthcare in general and in EMS specifically, as related to us. And agencies across the state have been raising their wages dramatically to attempt to attract staff and keep them. And everybody, it's just impacting everybody. So we really do anticipate, we estimated a 5% increase that they may ask for. We're going to try and keep it lower than that. But with that, we estimated that our cost for ERM, all other things being equal, would be 280,000 for the coming year. So it would be an increase of $30,000. We have other areas with smaller increases, but another big increase is our volunteer stipend. So since before I joined Haddam Ambulance, there has been a stipend down here for handling calls. We have had that stipend plan evolve over the last few years, and it does cost more now. It costs more for two reasons. We increased the stipend and what items we give a stipend for to incentivize behaviors, and we also increased volunteer participation in general. So the stipend has gone from roughly $20,000 or a little less than $20,000 a couple years ago to $49,000 last year. And we anticipate increased volunteer activity this year, which would, and so we're estimating $60,000 for the coming year for the volunteer stipend program. Now, the good news on that front is if the volunteer stipend goes up, it's because of increased activity, which means that our dependence on ERM should go down a little bit as our volunteer coverage goes up a little bit. So that would impact the cost on the ERM side, and we did take that into account when we were figuring this up. Other areas of increase. So ambulance expenses, this is maintenance, tires. We had estimated 20,000.
He cut out, but then he came back, and I was hopeful he was hanging on.
I will text him again.
And he's gone. Yeah.
And I don't know about you guys, but all of his previous profiles are still on my screen.
Yeah,
No,
The three Doug Doles.
online, wherever he drops it. So I don't get to see him.
Oh no, I'm gonna be up to 4 Doug Doles after this.
yeah,
It's
not only
funny.
do I still see him, but it shows well, 2 of the 3 I've got here right now are live mic, and I can't shut them off, but it doesn't matter if there's nothing there.
That's what I noticed too. It says, oh well, before it was saying he was talking, but there was no audio.
What are we looking at for? Well, waiting for what are we looking at for next week for meetings?
Right now, the only thing we have scheduled is just our routine Board of Selectmen meeting.
All right.
That's where we can talk to HK Rec.
Yeah.
You will take a look at the list, the cheat sheet. If there's anybody else you think should be called in, let Joanne know tomorrow so she can make arrangements, because she's got to have the agenda 24 hours in advance. So
Yeah. I'm just
although
trying
actually
to.
Monday is a regular meeting, so we can always append it, or we can always amend the agenda at the meeting. It was just today and yesterday, or not yesterday, tomorrow we can't.
No, I'm just my Tuesdays are tied up for a bunch of weeks. I'm taking Irish language lessons. If anybody really cares.
Really?
Yeah. So, but also trying to avoid Wednesday of next week if possible too. So, but that's not imperative. But if we can get through most of it on Monday for at least calling people in, and then figure out when we want to actually go over all the numbers and start approving, that'd be great.
Right.
Hello.
Hey, Doug, welcome back again.
Hi.
I had to call because I don't know what's going on that we keep losing the signal for you, but I apologize. So I'm not sure exactly where I lost you. I was probably talking about the volunteer stipend.
No, you're
Oh no,
radio repair.
I was talking about ambulance expenses. Did you guys
Right.
get that?
Yep.
All right. So we increased that by only a couple thousand over what we actually spent for 21, but it was 10,000 more than what we had budgeted for. So that was another significant area of increase. We have a line item 6120 for radio repairs and purchase. Let me put that up here. What did I do with it? Yeah, looking at the line item number. Radio repairs and purchase 6120. So we set that at 5,000. We had budgeted last year 7,000. We spent 3,000, and we needed to go a little higher than that, but we were looking for areas to cut, so we cut that to 5,000. But we'll probably have to purchase some pagers this year. We have talked to Scott over at the fire department about using some of the UHF pagers that the fire department doesn't use because they've got the P25 statewide pagers.
Right.
We're just waiting. He says he's got to do an inventory on those first, and we're waiting to borrow some of those. In the meantime, we have purchased some dual band pagers, which, as you can imagine, they're not exactly inexpensive. And we're going to see how that goes. We're going to see how it goes when we borrow the UHF pagers from the fire department. We're going to have those reprogrammed a little bit. So anyway, that line item, we left it at 5,000. Let's see, the next line, 6124. So we put that at 8,500. So because we only spent 7,500 for 2021. So we did lower that. So let me look for for increases again. I apologize there. Because there were areas that we decided to decrease on, and hope that we're right. Insurance, we anticipate that to go up a little bit, not significantly. Likewise with utilities, we added 1,000 for over what we spent, but it's a little lower than what we budgeted last year. Let me see, what's the big one here? Oh, our building and grounds. So this is what we spend for maintenance around the building. Now, we had budgeted for last year 8,000. We ended up not spending it, but we did get an estimate for our driveway this past fall, and that was fairly significant. It was a $17,000 or $18,000 estimate. So we decided to hold off on that and push it to this spring or summer, and we're going to work on getting a couple more estimates. And so we budgeted 16,000 in that line item. So we doubled the budget on that. We anticipate that we're probably going to spend the entire amount there. We had initially put it at 30,000 because we need to have our roof looked at. It's getting on the old side. No issues with it right now, but it is like about a 35-year-old roof is what we figure right now. So we want to stay ahead of any problems. But right now we're pushing that out to 2023. Education and training. Well, so we did have to increase that budget by about 25% to just 4,000, and we're hoping we can keep it there. We changed up our training a little bit so that we can get most of our members online training at a lower cost than sending them to classes. But as we increase members, the cost goes up anyway. So it's a good problem that we have more members. It just means that certain things cost more. So that was a line item that went up. Let me see what else we got. Professional fees, that's line 6240. That is paying for our treasurer, which is a paid position down here, our billing clerk and billing agency. And those are going up for 2022. So we had budgeted last year 37,000. We ended up spending 41,410. And knowing that those are going up, budgeted 45,000. So that is an $8,000 increase over last year, roughly a 20% or so increase. Let me see, what else do we have here? That's big. Those are the big increases. And that brings us to expense, which when you add up all the line items, many of them remained the same or had smaller increases. And others we zeroed out because we just had not spent what we thought we were going to. It brings our expense to $508,000 $150 estimated for 2022. And when we take away, we had an estimated income again of that 536 go. There we go. When we added in the town to what the town is already giving us to our estimated income, we came to 476,000. But that left us a deficit, projected deficit of $112,050 a year. And we would, in order to make that up through your fiscal year and ours, our fiscal year is January 1st to December 31st. So we're looking at making it up in the second half. And in order to do that, we needed to get an appropriation from the town for the first 2 quarters of your 22-23 fiscal year that would make up that $112,000. That's that would increase the full year request, and that's how we came up with $100,000 for the coming fiscal year. Because that $112,000 deficit already anticipates $80,000 that would come through through the last 2 quarters of your current fiscal year. And that's where we are. Now, if our call volume increases, and not just our call volume, if our transport volume increases, and there's a really good chance that that will happen, I think. We just can't predict what that number will be. Then revenue could increase, and that'll be less of an impact. And if that happens, we'll be able to see the results of that next year when we do our expense planning next year. By the way, the amount we're requesting doesn't cover really the entire deficit that's projected. We're going to take part of that out of savings, but our savings has been dwindling each year. And we got, as we told you last year, COVID hit us really hard on the revenue side, as well as on the expense side, but particularly on the revenue side, and we haven't made that up yet.
Okay.
So what I can tell you is, our call volume is starting to creep up again. In 2019, prior to COVID, we had 875 calls for the year. I lost the number for the number of transports. And then 2020, the first year of COVID, our volume dropped to 647. Our transport also, as a percentage, dropped. Now, in 2021, we came back a little bit with our total call volume, but our transport volume was only 431. We came back to 765 requests for service, but only 431 transports. So not a great percentage there.
Yeah, Doug, just so I'm clear, and the difference in our fiscal years makes this even more confusing. But from the town in calendar year 22, which is also your fiscal year, you would get from the town the 80,000 in the first 2 quarters, and if we go with what your request is, 90,000 in the final 2 quarters. So that to give you,
yes.
Okay, so that 90,000 still leaves you what, $22,000 roughly short, and you're going to be able to pull that out of your savings?
Yeah, I mean, we don't. Yes, that's where we're going to have to take it from. We're really not enthusiastic about having to take it savings because that's kind of like the rainy day fund, right?
Mhm.
But I think I'm going to be meeting with the finance director this week to go over the long range capital plan.
Right.
Now that's going to help with long range expenses, and of note, we did typically I like to have in our spending and savings plan the line item for saving for capital expenses such as new ambulance, new stretcher, that sort of thing. We didn't put any money in that this year, anticipating that will be in the long range capital plan. But on the other hand, it's going to be, keep our fingers crossed, 8 years before we need to look at either purchasing or remounting an ambulance. So that gives us a little time, when we're planning this out with the town for that. But it's not, there is no money in our spending plan to set aside money for capital purchases. We do have a line 7002. That was also an increase capital equipment expense, but we're looking at on that item. We may have to purchase a couple of new laptops or tablets for charts, for EMS charts. And so that's what that line item is about. But that represents an increase.
Right. All right. This is a minor point, but just so I can explain it. You've got two lines basically marked buildings and grounds expense. One was the 6199 you talked about paving the driveway with the bulk of that money or all of that money that's proposed in the budget. What's the other building grounds upkeep 6310 used for?
6310, where did that go? Why don't I see that right?
Don't see that either.
Oh, there we go. 6310, that's on the other page. Let me see if I have it. Oh. I was just looking at that, and then there we go.
Here, 6310.
That is, so that's the regular maintenance stuff, the predictable maintenance stuff. That's lawn care, actually not plowing anymore, because we have the town plow for us, and then we shovel where they can't get. But that's lawn care, that's replacing light fixtures in the building, which we are doing some.
Yep.
We're replacing a few right now, and other repairs around the building.
Okay.
And we spent $3,881 on that last year, so we bumped that to $5,000.
All right, and what's right under that? There's a 12,000, almost 13,000 for that Middlesex paramedics.
Okay, so now you may notice that's line item 5,000.
Correct.
And I want to make sure I'm looking at the right one on this other page, so I've got that. I want to make sure I answer you correctly. So where did it go? I'm looking at it on my worksheet, and I'm looking at it on the sheet that I submitted to you. But on the worksheet, well, there is that paramedic expense. That ends up being zeroed out. What that is you'll see that on the income side also. And the income and expense equal each other, because that's money that comes from insurers or for self-pay on their bill, and there's an amount in that bill that's set aside for a paramedic if the paramedic rode. So that in and goes right out to Middlesex Hospital or Hunter's Ambulance, whoever provided the paramedic for the call. So it's never money that's ours. It actually goes to those agencies by contract.
All right, so that's just money you're collecting because you're providing the billing for the call when there's a paramedic involved.
Absolutely. And so that's why, on my worksheet, it's noted on both the income and expense side, and the number is equal. It's essentially a zeroed out item. So there used to be a number put on that, and I just kind of prefer to keep that at zero because for both the income side and the expense side, because it's not money.
Okay. All right, where is that? I'm looking at your income sheet, and again.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually looking for it on the expense side right now on the sheet that I turned in. I have it on my worksheet, but on the final sheet that I sent in the other day, it's not on that. It is on the worksheet. And let me look at the income side on this. 1,200. That is that's a good question, because I don't see it listed on the income side. Now, on our original worksheet, that was there, and I had asked to have that zeroed out. Let me see what happened here. Line 5,000, 12,617.84. So let me just point out too that on this year's proposed for 2022, so that's you might be looking at the sheet that you might be looking at is the one that was prepared on 1/10/22. That was a worksheet.
Right.
And that 12,617.84. But that was for 2021. If you look over in the second and third column, especially the third column, which is 2022, it's zero. And it's zero because the income, any money that comes in is going right out. So I didn't want to reflect it as an expense. So I'm looking at it on the expense side right now, line 5,000, and we zeroed that out. I don't know why it didn't show up on what I sent in to Ann the other day. And that's part of the problem on my house, because I'm looking at both, and I'm just noticing now that it didn't show up on the one I sent in to Ann. But that's okay, because we're not predicting income or expense from that, because the money is just passing through.
Okay.
And so we're not in our proposed budget right now for 2022. It's zero coming in, zero going out. And so I think that's why it fell off of the income side. Now, on the worksheet, I don't know why on the worksheet I don't see it there, because it should have been reflected on the income side, because a number was put in for the expense side, and the two numbers were supposed to be equal.
Mm-hmm.
And they were when we originally going over our budget. When Ron and I, back in December, were putting this together, we had that. But again, I had requested of the board and our treasurer that it just be an item with zero on both the income and the expense side, because as I've already explained, it's just pass-through money.
Sure. All right.
I'm sorry for the confusion created there. I honestly didn't notice it until you just brought it up that it's missing there. But again, what I will say is that the final overview that I sent in to Ann doesn't include it on either the income side or the expense side.
Okay.
I apologize for that confusion.
All right. I've got a comment after we're all done with this on yours, just to pass information to you, but basically my questions are done. Sean, Kate, anything?
You asked the question I was going to ask about, how much there was being covered by savings, and actually what kind of an effect that is on their savings. You touched on that. Thank you.
Okay.
And I think I'm all set.
Okay. Doug, Rhonda, just to let you know, Bob Ziegler emailed me. He'd like to meet with me. He sent it a couple of weeks ago. We've been trying to connect. And finally, when it was a bit of a lapse, finally, when we did, apparently he's going in for some surgery and not going to be available at all until March. He never said what it was about. I assume it's a budget thing. But when I find out more, I'll let you know more.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about, but he just he's in the hospital. He was just operated on yesterday. I don't even know how he's doing. I tried to find out, but I couldn't get any, info. A little too early, but I don't know what that's about.
Well, he requested a meeting with Rhonda and I also.
Okay.
Last week, and he requested that with the chiefs of all the services that are their clients, and they were meeting. Their management team was meeting with each group, and we thought going into it that it was going to be about the upcoming contract and that they had to increase their rates. But that topic didn't come up at the meeting. So I was actually kind of surprised. But I think, they were providing us information about how they're able to fill our shifts and what percentage of shifts that we request they actually fill and that sort of thing. And they were setting us up for the next meeting where they say, and by the way,
yeah.
That's what I think it might be about.
Our last contract that we did with them was kind of brutal. I mean, it was a long time before we could settle,
Right.
So
it was quite a process.
It was
the last contract, and now this one is in the end of June. So
right.
We do anticipate a few meetings coming up.
And the attorney who did the negotiating with Bob's attorney, she passed away.
That's tough negotiations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was what? She was only in her 50s,
yeah,
right?
she's in her 50s. That was our, and she did a great job for us, actually.
Yeah.
And made sure stuff that we had been asking for a long time actually got included in the contract.
But we're working on another attorney that we've been, we sent him our contract and wanted to look it over and stuff. So.
Okay.
I might know. I don't know. Glenn Coffin. She was the paramedic or something with Clinton or the fire department for many years.
Yeah, his name doesn't ring a bell. What firm is she with?
It's a guy, Glenn Coffin. Yeah, they said with a firm up in Glastonbury. I'm not sure, but he was recommended.
Okay.
So someone from, that's an EMT, they recommended him, and so we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, like I
So
said, as soon as Bob gets out and gets back in touch with me, I'll let you know anything I can find
Yeah.
out.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you. We also, I just, this time it's probably not the right time to do it, but we have been meeting with East Haddam about regional, we've had some talks with them, and
Mm-hmm. Good.
Well, yeah, I guess to be accurate on that, we had discussions with both East Haddam and East Hampton about approaches that can happen for covering the three towns. And I think we've talked with, we may have touched on this topic with you before, but obviously the big problem is the bridge.
Right.
But being the only point of contact between this side and that side, but there are potential things we can do. The other thing is, it seems like maybe some of the other folks in the Valley Shore area are starting to discuss things a little bit in that regard. But I don't know to what extent they want to do that. And the discussions right now may not be actually talking about what needs to be talked about, which is really a regional model
Right.
for providing EMS through the whole Valley Shore area. I know Ron mentioned it to you before, and we're pursuing it, and that's why we are having conversations with the folks on the east side of the river. But it really would be good if the folks on this side of the river started moving in that direction.
Yeah, I absolutely concur.
We think we could see significant cost savings for all agencies involved. And that makes sense, that we would see. And probably better provision of service too.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It would cut down on the multiple calls or multiple tones and multiple towns being called before you can finally get a crew together, or get one town that provides a full crew versus, one from one town, one from another. That's a crew. You've got an ambulance, you go. But discussion for another time. Anything else regarding the budget?
If you're asking us, I don't have anything else to present right now.
Okay.
This is Sean. I'm all set.
Is this Kate?
I do hope-
Seconding that.
I do hope we've answered any questions or concerns you might have. Rhonda and I really, we went over this for quite a while to try and minimize the red ink in the budget, and then had our board go over it again a couple weeks ago, and we cut more, and we once again put off expenses that we know are coming up.
Well, thank you. It was a good presentation.
Yeah, I appreciate your efforts. I know how difficult it is, and it is a fine line between what can you push off and what you really can't, because it's just going to come back to bite you. But Doug, Rhonda, thank you very much. Sean, Kate, like I said, take a look at the budget overall. Anyone else besides HK Rec we want to talk to, let Joanne know. We'll see if we can get them in for Monday. And do you have anything else?
Well, I believe it's my turn if we're ready.
I think Kate's ready. I'm certainly ready. Go for it, Sean.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thanks, Ann.